afternoon. This is probably my third attempt on doing this, so hopefully this is a lot better. And today we're going to be discussing, as announced yesterday, Jacob, the man who wrestled God. And this is the moment in time I'm going to speak about that's very important to me because it helped me get through a lot. First, in my personal life, in my prayer life, and a mix of different areas in my life. And so, I know some of you on here are like, okay, why is he talking about a Bible story? I want to tell you something very interesting about this. This is where it's coming from the Christian perspective. This is coming from the perspective of people who've read the Bible for so long and grown up with it and understand it, but also still learn things about it to this day. And so with this story, this is like years after Jacob taking the rights as the firstborn. Jacob also stealing the blessing from Esau. On top of not only dealing with that, ended up going to his uncle's place, wanting to have Rachel as his wife, getting tricked into marrying Leah, and then works some more to get Rachel and ends up having two wives. Leah ends up having about 11 or 10 of the 12 sons of Jacob. I think it's probably 11, if I remember correctly, and it's later on that Rachel has Joseph as her son, and then Benjamin a little bit later as well. Actually, I think it's probably the 10, because it's going to make sense because Benjamin's treasure. I'm going to have to relook that up anyway. So, point being, we're at a point before Joseph is born. All these years of family stuff, all the ridiculous drama with his uncle, and he ends up coming home to go talk to his brother Esau. And honestly, with the way Jacob, and ironically Jacob's name means supplanter, it means to take under, to take over, and to steal of sorts. It's basically a name saying like, hey, this guy's going to take stuff from you. But what's interesting is, in this story, that name gets changed. The meaning of it gets changed. And so what happens is, Jacob starts heading towards Canaan, heading back to where Esau's at, who's already married, who has his own family, his own wealth as well, and has his own army. And at this point in time, we're not even sure what's going to happen. Jacob could possibly go out there, confront his brother kill him, and then slaughter or even take his whole family as his own. We're not even sure. We could possibly see the end of Israel just like that, the origins of Israel, just like that. And so here's what happens. Jacob ends up sending his family over to another side of this stream where they can be safe. He sends his belongings that way. And a kind of a checkpoint to where, like, hey, this is also where I'm going to be sending my family at. If you want to see them, if you want to see them and then come talk to me, we can talk. And he's at the camp after sending them away by himself, just praying and praying. And this manifestation of God, just a singular man shows up. And a lot of people believe it's the angel of the Lord. And a lot of people believe the angel of the Lord is just Jesus Christ before he became Jesus Christ. And that's a whole bunch of different theology and theories and stuff like that. It's very interesting if you take a deep dive. The canon of the Bible itself is very interesting. And theories on how things work and what is what with theology. There's a lot there. I mean, I won't lie, it intrigues me. There's a lot there. And so when it comes to Jacob's moment with that man, and he's just wrestling with him, and it goes from night to day, and Jacob is just not backing down. He's got him in this position to where he's not letting go. He's wrestling this guy. It's like, I'm not letting you go. And it gets to the point where the being actually literally has to miraculously, through the supernatural, touch his hip to dislocate his hip. And yet, what's even crazier is, looks like there's a little bit of a interesting stop here. Well, am I able to get through here? I guess we'll find out. It looks like they're just doing some sewage work. Be very careful here. Pardon me. And so the guy's like, you gotta let go of me. You can't keep me here. And Jacob's like, no. Not until you bless me. And so the being gives him a blessing. Grants him the blessing. And Jacob asks his name. Who are you? And the being asks him, like, why do you want to know? And so not only he gives him a blessing, he also changes his name. And he says this, for you have wrestled with God and remained. For you have struggled with God and are still here. And Jacob names the place. I forgot the name of it and the wording of it, but basically saying this is where I met with God. And this whole story is very interesting. You can take it literally. You really can. But you can also make it a story about struggling in prayer. Not seeing what God has in mind. Not seeing where God's plan is going to work out. And for many of you that are outside of Christian and don't believe in the Lord Jesus, this story is a very important thing because this is the beginnings of Israel. This is the guy who brought Joseph through his lineage, who brought the 12 brothers that would create the 12 tribes of Israel, that would help create the 12 tribes that Moses would take through the desert. This guy being promised that your descendants will be numerous as the sands in the desert. The same promise also given to Abraham, his great-grandfather, or his grandfather, excuse me. These are the beginning people. They have such a long and dedicated history that they keep going in further chapters or further in the Bible. They keep going back to either Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and his son Jacob and Esau. And they have this duality with Jacob and Esau as well, which is really interesting. A very interesting comparison, just like with Isaac and Ishmael. Now, if you don't know anything about Ishmael, Ishmael is the surrogate son of Abraham through Hagar, the Egyptian slave. And Isaac, of course, being the actual blood son of Abraham through Sarah. And what's interesting, there's a parallel between Isaac and Ishmael and Jacob and Esau due to the fact that they are two brothers that are in conflict. Due to the fact that they are not only in conflict, they are constantly not only at odds, but there's also what's really interesting in Jacob's story is after he wrestles with God, he actually reconciles with Esau. Very interesting. And there's always these moments of where there's reconciliation. There's moments of reconciliation for families, for two families coming back together. And how they use Jacob and Esau also to compare two kingdoms, the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah, throughout the entire Old Testament. throughout the New Testament, they always make mention of how Jacob was the good brother, and while Esau was the rebellious brother, and the one that was sent away, that was his right was taken away as the firstborn. And it's very interesting to me that we see this not only throughout the Bible, but through storytelling in other places. What's very interesting is, and it's not necessarily a similar thing. It's not the same situation, but I think of the story of Ace and Luffy a little bit. Brothers that are constantly in conflict, almost, but not in the kind of conflict that you think of. It's always trying to prove who is stronger than the other, who is better than the other in that circumstance. And I really like this idea of they're constantly wanting to push each other to be better dynamic. You see this dynamic, older brother and little brother rivalry everywhere, and you see it in storytelling everywhere. And honestly, I would not be surprised if some of the beginnings of it were in like older stories that were made after Jacob and Esau were somewhat based in that. And I'm not saying everything's going to be based in the Bible, but there's a lot of great stories that have had influence from the Bible. For instance, there's some allegory in Halo where, heck, I mean, literally, I believe John 1:7, that's Master Chief's name, is a reference to John 1:17. I can't remember it offhand, but it mentioned the covenant and Moses. And you notice there's a whole allegory in the original 3 Halo games of how there's a lot of religious elements in there. And it's very interesting. And not only of how the covenant are a representation of an oppressive religious regime, but also have had a lot of imagery with the imagery of the Arbiter being almost a Christ-like stand-in, being punished, which is very interesting. And I'm not just saying this to just try to sound interesting, because I've been made aware of these things. I've been shown these things through other people's perspectives, and it's very interesting. And so when it comes with Jacob and Esau, I can't help but see their influence through other stories, their influence on other people, and the allegory for struggling in faith, struggling in prayer, wrestling in prayer. It's such a wonderful story. And it helped me and it blessed me to see certain things. And from a storytelling perspective, it's very interesting as well. Think about this. You don't usually hear in regular real life the older brothers calling to be the eldest brother being taken away, his birthright being taken away. It's a very interesting thing. And I want to leave you with this. For those who don't believe it, but are curious about the story, I want you to understand something. I've grown up with these stories. I understand these stories. They're very interesting to me. And I want to share them with people. And yes, I know it's unbelievable that a man would wrestle with God, but you could also believe in a guy who's made of rubber and a guy that's made of fire, or okay, this one might be interesting. I don't know if many of you know this game. It's called Ashura's Wrath, and at the end of the game, basically the main character literally does the same thing that Jacob does and fights the personification of God in his story. It's everywhere. I'm telling you. I'm not saying this to rub it in your face. I'm saying this just to be curious. Think about it. Take a chance at something that might teach you something. And I'm not saying you need to read the Bible up and down, all across, without. Honestly, look at this story as something to be shown, to be taught a lesson in. And for a lot of Christian folks, they're going to see this as me saying, oh, you need to read the Bible and you need to there's nothing wrong with reading the Bible as someone that's not a non-believer, to look at it, to take those observation out of it. But you're not going to be able to see everything. What we believe in Christianity is the Holy Spirit gives us revelation. It shows us stuff that we haven't seen before. All you're going to see is a very odd story about a guy wrestling God. But there's more there contextually. If you're a story person, I highly recommend you read that story. It's Genesis 32. And it is such an incredible story of not only reconciliation between two brothers, but the interaction between God and his creation. I'm telling you, it's it doesn't have pictures, it doesn't have the nuance of newer stuff, but I'm telling you, it is worth watching, worth reading. Heck, if they have a show, heck, I wish they would. I wish they would have something for Jacob. It'd be a great show. It really would. And I encourage you, just take a look at it. Don't just read it because, I want to read it so I can disprove it. Read it because it's an interesting story. Read it like it's just a story. Although for me, it's not. I believe it. I believe it to be real, but it's also a great story to tell. It really is. Thank you for watching. I'm glad you have I hope you have a great rest of your day and blessed rest of your day. I'm out. Peace.